Have you ever poured your heart into something, only to have others try to tear it down? That's exactly what happened to me, and the consequences were more dramatic than anyone could have imagined. My name is Tom, and this is the story of how one HOA's overreach led to a disaster that changed an entire neighborhood forever. When my grandfather passed away 5 years ago, he left me something precious to 60 acres of beautiful land that had been in our family for 3 generations. Rolling green fields, a peaceful wooded area, and right through the middle, a creek that wound its way down toward the Willowbrook subdivision below us. Now, Grandpa always talked about that creek. Tommy, he'd say that. Water's been both a blessing and a curse to this land. One day you'll need to do something about it. He was right. Every spring, heavy rains would turn that gentle creek into a rushing torrent, washing away precious topsoil and threatening everything downstream. I watched it happen year after year, and I knew I had to act. After months of research and planning, I invested $15,000 of my savings into building a small dam system. Nothing fancy, just a well-engineered structure that would slow the water flow, create a beautiful pond for wildlife, and protect everyone downstream from flooding. The results were incredible. Fish returned to the area, birds nested along the banks, and most importantly, the dangerous spring floods became a thing of the past. I felt proud knowing I was honoring Grandpa's wishes while protecting both my land and my neighbors below. But then, the letters started arriving. The Willowbrook HOA, led by their president, a man named Richard Henderson, wasn't happy. Their first letter was polite but firm. Unapproved construction and aesthetic concerns, they said. I chuckled as I tossed it in the trash. My land, my rules, right? But they didn't give up. Letter after letter arrived, each one more demanding than the last. They claimed I was stealing water rights and damaging property values. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was actually protecting their property values by preventing floods. Then came the letter that changed everything. A certified envelope with an official-looking document inside. My hands actually shook as I read it. $50,000 fine for unauthorized water obstruction. $50,000. My heart pounded as I stared at those numbers. For a dam that was protecting their own homes, I felt a mix of disbelief, anger, and honestly betrayal. Here I was being a good neighbor, and this is how they repaid me. That evening, I called Richard directly. I tried to keep my voice calm and reasonable. Richard, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The dam is on my property, and it's actually protecting your neighborhood from flooding. His response still echoes in my mind. Tom, we don't care about your little engineering project. It's coming down, one way or another. Richard, I said, choosing my words carefully, you need to understand something. That dam isn't just decoration. It's flood control. If I remove it, the next big storm is going to cause serious problems for everyone downstream. He laughed, actually laughed, and said, Tom, we'll take our chances. Remove it, or we'll make you remove it. I hung up that night with a heavy heart, knowing that sometimes good intentions aren't enough when you're dealing with people who refuse to listen. The harassment escalated quickly after that phone call. What started as letters became surprise inspections, where HOA board members would show up at my property line, taking photos and making notes. They even contacted local authorities, though, thankfully, the county confirmed I had all proper permits for my dam, the breaking point. Came on a Tuesday morning in early March. I was having my coffee on the back porch when I heard car doors slamming. Through my kitchen window, I saw them 5 HOA board members walking onto my property without permission. Carrying what looked like tools, I rushed outside just as Richard and 2 others approached. The dam with bolt cutters and saws. Stop right there. I called out, grabbing my phone to call the sheriff. You're trespassing on private property? Richard turned to face me, and I'll never forget the arrogance in his eyes. Tom, this ends today. You've had your warnings. My neighbor Sarah, bless her heart, had heard the commotion and came running from her house next door. She'd always supported my dam project, especially after it saved her chicken coop from flooding the previous spring. Richard Henderson, what in heaven's name do you think you're doing? Sarah demanded, hands on her hips. Stay out of this. Sarah, this doesn't concern you. Richard replied dismissively. The heck it doesn't. That dam saved my property last year, and you know it. The tension was thick as we all stood there. Finally, I spoke up, my voice steady despite the anger boiling inside me. Richard, I'm asking you one last time, please reconsider this. That dam has prevented thousands of dollars in flood damage. If you force me to remove it, people are going to get hurt when the next big storm hits. He looked me dead in the eye and said that's a risk we're willing to take. We have insurance. Insurance. As if money could replace family heirlooms, precious memories, or worse, someone's safety. The sheriff arrived within minutes and asked the HOA members to leave my property. But the damage was done. Richard made it clear this was war, and they had lawyers ready to fight that night. I called my own attorney, Mike Patterson, who I'd known since high school. His advice was practical, but disheartening. Tom, you're legally in the right, but fighting this could take years and cost you more than that $50,000 fine. Sometimes the principle isn't worth the price. I spent sleepless nights weighing my options. Keep fighting and risk losing everything in legal fees, or give them what they wanted and hope for the best. Finally, I made my decision. If Richard and his HOA wanted the dam gone, they'd get their wish. But I was going to make absolutely sure they understood the consequences. I hired a contractor and had the dam carefully dismantled over 3 days. Every piece was removed, every obstruction cleared. The creek now flowed exactly as it had before, fast, uncontrolled, and dangerous during heavy rains. As I watched the last of the dam structure being hauled away, my neighbor Sarah came over with tears in her eyes. Tom, I'm so sorry it came to this, she said softly. Don't be sorry, Sarah. Sometimes people have to learn the hard way. I documented everything with photos and videos, partly for my records, but mostly because I had a feeling I'd need proof of what I'd warned them about. The HOA sent a celebratory newsletter that week, praising their environmental victory and the restoration of natural water flow. They even included a photo of the creek, calling it pristine and beautiful. All I could do was shake my head and wait. Spring was coming, and with it, the rains. The first test came in April, just a gentle, steady rainfall that lasted about 6 hours. Without the dam to slow it down, the creek ran higher and faster than usual, but nothing dramatic happened. I watched from my porch as the water rushed past, carrying more debris than I'd seen in years. Richard actually sent me a smug text message. See? Everything's fine. Maybe next time listen to people who know better. I didn't respond. I knew Mother Nature wasn't done teaching her. Lesson the real storm hit in early May. Weather. Forecasters had been tracking it for days, a slow-moving system that promised to dump 3 to 4 inches of rain over a 48-hour period. I'd seen storms like this before, back when I was a kid. Before Grandpa had installed his smaller water management systems, I spent the day before the storm securing everything on my property and checking on my elderly neighbors. Sarah had wisely moved her chickens to higher ground, and I helped her reinforce her garden shed. You worried about the creek? She asked as we worked. I'm worried about everyone downstream, I answered honestly. The rain started Friday evening, gentle at first, then steadier as the night went on. By Saturday morning, it was coming down in sheets. I stood on my covered porch with my coffee, watching the creek transform from a peaceful waterway into a raging river, without the dam to hold it back. The water picked up speed as it rushed downhill. Branches, debris, even small boulders tumbled along with the current. It was mesmerizing and terrifying at the same time. By Saturday afternoon, I could see the effects downstream. The walking trail that the HOA was so proud of disappeared under several feet of muddy water, the decorative bridge they'd installed. Last summer was completely submerged, but the real drama started Saturday evening. The water reached the first row of houses in Willowbrook. Just as the storm intensified, I watched through binoculars as it filled yards, crept up driveways, and started seeping into garages and basements. My phone started ringing. First it was Sarah, calling to check on me. Then it was Mike, my lawyer, who'd heard about the flooding on the news. But the call that will stick with me forever came around 9 p.m. Saturday night. Tom. The voice was shaky, barely recognizable. It was Richard. Richard. Are you okay? Tom. Oh God, Tom, the water. It's in my house. It's in everyone's houses. The whole street is flooded. I could hear the panic in his voice. Despite everything that had happened, my heart went out to him. Richard, is everyone safe? Do you need help evacuating? We got most people out. But Tom, everything's ruined. My basement, my workshop, my wife's piano. It's all underwater. There was a long pause, and then he said the words I'd been dreading to hear. You were right. You warned us, and we didn't listen. Sunday morning revealed the full extent of the damage. 12 homes had significant flood damage, 3 cars were totaled, and the HOA community center was completely destroyed. The local news crews arrived to document what they called the worst flooding in Willowbrooks. 20-year history. I didn't gloat. I didn't say I told you so. Instead, I did what any decent neighbor would do. I helped with the cleanup. For 3 days. I worked alongside the same people who had fought to destroy my dam. We pumped water, hauled out damaged furniture, and helped families salvage what they could. Richard and I barely spoke during those days. But on Wednesday evening, as we were loading the last of the damaged drywall into a dumpster, he approached me. Tom, I owe you an apology. A big one. I stopped what I was doing and really looked at him. This wasn't the same arrogant man who had trespassed on my property 2 months earlier. This was someone who had learned a hard lesson about the consequences of pride and stubbornness. Richard, I never wanted this to happen to you or anyone else. That's exactly why I built the dam in the first place. I know that now, he said, his voice heavy with regret. I was so focused on control, on being right, that I couldn't see the bigger picture. The dam wasn't just some ugly obstruction. It was protection. The aftermath was swift and decisive. Insurance companies investigated and confirmed that the flooding was directly related to the removal of my flood control system. The HOA faced lawsuits from their own members, and their insurance refused to cover damages they deemed preventable. Richard resigned as HOA president, and within 6 months, the entire board had been replaced. The new leadership's first official act was to write me a formal letter of apology and request that I consider rebuilding the dam. I did rebuild it, stronger and better than before. This time, I added a small plaque near the viewing area that reads, "In memory of Grandpa Joe." Who knew that sometimes protecting others means standing up for what's right? Even when it's not popular, the Willowbrook subdivision recovered eventually. New families moved into the repaired homes, and the new HOA leadership actually consulted with me on additional flood prevention measures. But the real lesson here isn't about dams or HOAs or even flood control. It's about the importance of listening, really listening to people who are trying to help. Even when their help doesn't look the way you expected, Richard and I actually became friends in the years that followed. He often brings visitors by to see the dam and tells them the story of how his pride nearly destroyed his community. Pride goeth before destruction, he'll say, quoting the old proverb, and I learned that lesson the hard way. As for me, I'm still here on Grandpa's land, still protecting the valley below, still grateful for the wisdom he passed down to me. Because sometimes being a good neighbor means doing the right thing, even when the neighbors don't appreciate it yet. And that pond behind the dam? It's more beautiful than ever, full of fish and wildlife. A peaceful reminder that sometimes the best solutions are the ones that work with nature instead of against it. Remember, folks, if this story taught you anything, it's the importance of communication and respecting expertise. Have you ever been in a situation where pride got in the way of common sense? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories like this one.